the chains of dust. The pain should have blurred her vision. The searing fire where her hand had been should have reduced her to screams and sobs. But Maya Hale didn't scream. She stared, cold, unyielding, at the twisted alien faces watching her. Their eyes blinking sideways, some with bio-lenses adjusting focus. One of them clicked its mandibles in what passed for amusement. Another turned away, disinterested, as if mutilating a human meant little more than cutting wires from broken tech. Maya knelt on the steel floor of the cell, her severed hand still twitching beside her, blood mixing with the copper-colored grime coating everything in this Crixery war barge. Her chest rose and fell with the precision of a machine rebooting, not hyperventilating. She didn't scream. The Crixery had been interrogating her for cycles now. Cycles that blurred the line between time and torture. They wanted answers. They always did. Where were the Terran hideouts? What was Earth's fallback defense? Where was the rumored Valkyrie project being developed? Maya Hale wasn't just another prisoner. She was Valkyrie 9. But they didn't know that yet. Her mission had gone wrong. The insertion team never made it past the outer defense net. EMP pulses had fried their stealth shuttles. She'd woken up here, in this cold metal hell orbiting the ash-choked world of Gliese 62c. A planet the Crixery had scorched to warn others what rebellion meant. Her crew was gone. Her ship, vapor. But her mission had not died. Even as pain radiated up her arm like liquid lightning, she kept the plan alive in her mind. Step 1. Survive. Step 2. Adapt. Step 3. Execute. You are flesh. Weak, hissed the interrogator. A Crixery prime with a shimmering exoskeleton that shifted colors depending on its mood. Right now, it pulsed dull crimson. Rage. You cling to pain. Let it teach you obedience. Maya looked up slowly. Her voice was hoarse but flat. I'm not here to obey. The interrogator struck her with the back of a clawed limb. Her head snapped to the side. Something in her jaw cracked, but she remained kneeling. I could end you, it snarled. Maya spat blood. You won't. Not yet. You need something. You always do. The interrogator hesitated. Even Crixery weren't immune to logic. She had been high-value capture. That meant orders. That meant containment, not death. Maya leaned her head against the cold wall behind her, letting the pain anchor her. Pain was clarity. Pain was truth. They think humans break like bones, but they don't know our marrow burns with defiance. She closed her eyes and activated the implant behind her ear, what was left of it. Anyway, it flickered weakly. It hadn't connected to any secure networks in days. But there were other things it could do, other memories it could unlock. With a flicker of her mind, she brought up a deep-buried subroutine. Project. Sword. Her consciousness drifted briefly, flickering through old training memories, simulations, the forbidden enhancements she volunteered for. Bone-weaving nanites, accelerated nerve signal relays, adaptive pain suppression. They'd cut off her hand, but her body remembered its function. The system would adapt. It always had. That's why Project Valkyrie was banned by the Earth Coalition's Ethics Committee. Too late now. She opened her eyes. You'll regret what you took from me. The interrogator cocked its head. You regret nothing? Typical Terran madness. No, she whispered. I regret not taking your head first. The Crixery growled and slithered from the cell, metallic doors hissing shut behind it. Alone again, Maya slumped against the wall, conserving energy. She needed materials. A weapon. Anything sharp. That's when she saw it small, overlooked. One of the restraining bolts embedded in the floor was rusted, the corner frayed from use. Maybe during transport. Maybe an old prisoner once kicked it in frustration. Maya's eyes narrowed. She crawled to it, left arm dangling, right arm missing past the wrist. Her blood had mostly stopped leaking thanks to the emergency nanite clotting sequence. Still, she was dizzy, weak, but not broken. She scraped her shoulder against the bolt. It stung. She did it again, and again, until skin tore, until the bolt itself gave a little. Maya smiled. The pain was still there, but it was fuel now, not a chain. Elsewhere on the ship, the Crixery Bridge hummed with alien life. Pulsing organic consoles, bioluminescent screens, and whispers of distant screams from the prison sector. High Captain Crothnil leaned over a star map of Sector 14. His mandibles clicked thoughtfully. The humans were not as scattered as they claimed. Recent attacks on their scouting ships suggested a coordinated effort. And the prisoner they'd captured, the female, was marked highly classified by their intel drones. She had something the humans didn't want to lose. He turned to his adjutant. Begin cerebral fracturing tomorrow. I want her mind splintered. Extract everything. The adjutant hesitated. High Captain, our scouts found something else on her. A neural matrix, strange code patterns. Still dormant. Crothnil narrowed his eyes. Study it. No mistakes. If she is what I suspect, we may have underestimated her. Back in the cell, Maya was bleeding again, but the bolt was out. She held the jagged metal fragment with what was left of her arm. The limb's muscles twitching unnaturally as the Neuralink subroutines began adapting to the idea of control with fewer fingers, or none at all. She stabbed the bolt into the base of the cell's feeding chute. Sparks flew. The lights flickered. The nanites in her bloodstream needed energy. That would give them a small burst. Just enough. She whispered to the walls. You thought you ended me when you took my hand. The ship didn't respond. Not yet. But she knew how the systems worked. Bioorganic Crixery ships responded to pheromones, voice cues, familiarity. And she had something better. A Trojan voice print, copied from a dying Crixery captain 3 missions ago. She uploaded it through her neural port, lips twitching as she mimicked the tones. Override protocol. Designate control request. Alphalar. The wall pulsed. Then it opened. Just a crack. Just enough. Enough for Maya Hale to rise from the floor like a ghost out of myth, holding a piece of rusted metal like it was Excalibur. Her steps were uneven. Her arm throbbed. Her face was smeared in blood. But her eyes burned. They took her hand. She would take their command deck. The Blade and the Blood Oath. The winds of Kareth howled across the broken cityscape. Smoke twisted into the red-tinged sky, carrying the scent of scorched metal and old blood. Fires crackled in the ruins of what once was a resistance stronghold, now a graveyard. And through the haze a figure walked, slow, steady, alive. Rhea Varric, the same woman who had been dragged screaming from this very place just 3 days ago. The same woman whose hand had been sliced off by the alien Commander Jatel in front of her squad as a message. Humans do not fight, he'd proclaimed. They beg. But she hadn't begged. And now she wasn't running. At her hip, the newly forged sword pulsed. If metal could breathe, this blade would be exhaling rage. Made from a shard of the downed Crothy destroyer and reforged in the forges of Earth's last mountain stronghold, it had no name. But it had purpose. Just like her. As she reached the base of a collapsed spire, Rhea knelt beside a burnt-out comms panel, brushing away ash. Her remaining hand moved with precision, even grace. She tapped in an override code, one that no one but Command and the presumed dead Rhea Varric should have known. A distorted voice crackled to life. Identify. Rhea Varric, she said coldly. Authorization, Earth Aegis. Unit 09. Codeword. Vindicta. A pause. Then, Rhea, we thought you. Save it. I'm back. And I'm not alone. Behind her, footsteps echoed through the dust. Out of the shadows stepped the first 5. Humans. Scarred. Hardened. Survivors of the same prison ship that thought it had broken them. Each wore the scavenged armor of their captors, now retooled for vengeance. And each bore the mark of their rebirth. Ashes of the dead painted across their chests. 5 survivors? The voice asked, unbelieving. Rhea didn't look at the calm. Her eyes were locked on the rising towers of the alien occupation outpost ahead. Not survivors, she said. Avengers. A few clicks away, within the high, crystalline walls of the alien command center, Jatel watched a glowing map display. Red flickers danced across occupied zones, representing resistance cells being crushed underfoot. Earth was nearly pacified, so they claimed, but something tugged at his instincts. He paced with twitching tendrils, his fingers still stained faintly with the blood of the human woman, the one whose hand he'd severed. A mistake in hindsight. Her scream had not sounded like defeat. It had sounded like a promise. A young officer buzzed into the room. "Commander, Sector 12's perimeter alarms have been triggered." Jatel swiveled. "Resistance again? Thought we smoked them out." No visual confirmation, just a void, an absence of data. Something is interfering. Jatel narrowed his eyes. "Deploy aerial drones. Scan for heat signatures." As the officer scurried to comply, Jatel turned to the balcony and looked out across the darkening plains. He didn't know that she was already inside. In the ventilation shaft above the barracks, Rhea moved like smoke, her breath shallow, her feet silent. The others followed close, each step measured. They knew their time was limited. Once discovered, the whole compound would descend on them like wolves. Their mission was surgical: assassinate Jatel, cut off the head of the local command, broadcast the footage, let the rest of Earth know the war wasn't over. That vengeance wore a human face. At the central shaft junction, she paused. A patrolling guard, one of the brutish Varkari enforcers, stood beneath them, thumbing his plasma rifle, humming in his native clicks. Rhea motioned to Mara, the youngest of their group. Mara slid forward with a cable in hand and a silent snarl on her face. The trap was swift. One jerk, a twist of the wrist, and the Varkari's head jerked violently to the side with a sickening snap. They dropped down silently, boots crunching only faintly on the floor below. "Move," Rhea whispered. "Jatel's office is 3 levels up. The data core's beneath it. We split at the junction." Mara nodded, her brown eyes burning. "We get the data out. You get the blade in." Rhea's grip on the sword hilt tightened. No mercy. 2 levels up, alarms triggered softly, just an amber warning at first. A systems operator noticed an anomaly. Doors opened with no authentication. Heat signatures detected where none should exist. Jatel was already moving. His instincts screamed hunter was now hunted. He activated the emergency lockdown, but not fast enough. Rhea burst through the doors of the command chamber with a war cry that echoed like a cannon blast. The guards turned, caught flat-footed. One moved to fire. Too late. Her sword sang through the air, slicing in a clean, brutal arc that removed the guard's arm, and most of his chest. Sparks flew from his armor as he collapsed in a heap. Jatel was already drawing his own weapon, a long, cruel blade charged with a plasma core. He snarled in his alien tongue, "You're just one human." "No," Rhea said, circling him. "I'm what your war made." And they collided. It wasn't a duel, it was war in miniature. Jatel was twice her size, and his strength was monstrous. Every swing of his blade sent vibrations through the walls, carving grooves in the stone. But Rhea was faster. She moved like a fury, using only one hand and the weight of vengeance to guide her blade. Sparks erupted as steel met alien alloy. She ducked low, rolled, and slashed, catching Jatel across the thigh. He roared, staggering. "Blood. Is everywhere." And then he landed a blow. The hilt of his weapon slammed into her ribs, sending her crashing against the wall with a grunt. For a moment the wind was gone. The pain blurred her vision. He advanced. "You think a sword and rage will save you?" he sneered. Rhea looked up, smiling through blood. "No," she whispered. "But they'll bury you." And with a sudden push, she drew a small device from her belt and slammed it into the wall. Every screen in the building flickered, then lit up with a live broadcast. Her face, Jatel's face, and the voice of vengeance. Across Earth, in bunkers and ruins, humans watched. The woman they thought dead was not only alive. She was fighting. And the scream that followed. The scream that came as Rhea rose with a blade in both hands, one real, one synthetic, was the scream that reignited a planet. Echoes of fire, The rain had stopped by the time Alira reached the smoldering outer rim of the Tarkhan complex. Ash drifted down like ghost snow from the blackened sky, painting the ruined perimeter in shades of gray and regret. Her cloak clung to her from the downpour before, streaked with mud and blood, but her eyes, those bladed, burning eyes, glowed with a fury that hadn't dimmed since the moment her hand was severed. 12 dead Tarkhans behind her. Dozens more would follow. Alira paused beneath a collapsed steel arch that once served as a checkpoint. The ground was scorched, evidence of resistance met, and annihilated. Her breath came slow and measured, and with each inhale, she felt it. The rhythm of the sword of Vol in her hand pulsing with ancient heat. The blade shimmered with plasma light, whispering not in words, but in instinct. It didn't guide her. It followed her. It obeyed her. She turned her head slightly. Movement. 3 Tarkhans crouched along the wreckage of a supply shed, plasma rifles ready, scales twitching with nervous tension. She heard them whisper through the hiss of static in their helmet comms. She shouldn't be alive. It's just one human. Command said she's a threat level Sigma. Orders are to eliminate on sight. Sigma. 1 rank below Omega. She smirked. With a flick of her wrist, the sword flared in response. Alira didn't charge. She vanished. In the blink of a Tarkhan heartbeat, just under 0.9 seconds. She was behind them. The sword cut once. All 3 Tarkhans froze as a horizontal seam of light spread across their armor. Their bodies slid apart, silently, and collapsed into sizzling piles. No time to scream. No time to call for help. She kept moving. Deeper into the complex now, Alira passed a corridor where she remembered being dragged years ago. Still bleeding, screaming, her severed hand left behind as a warning to others. They had mocked her resilience back then, fed her lies about mercy and obedience, treated her like an animal that could be broken. But she had learned something far more dangerous than hate. She had learned patience. Down that corridor, in a chamber she had never seen, stood the room the Tarkhans called the Cradle. Rumors of what was born there varied. Some said it was where new cybernetic soldiers were cloned. Others whispered it was where hybrids were made. Alira now had another theory. That was where they trained monsters, like her. In the command spire, Captain Drayle watched the kill counter in disbelief. His pale violet eyes twitched as it ticked upward. 27 dead. 39. 44. He slammed a clawed hand on the console. She's one human. One. An aide tried to speak but shrank back when Drayle's second mouth opened in fury along his neck. This was supposed to be a containment facility. How did she get the Sword of Vol? That thing was locked in the deepest vault beneath. He paused. Something worse than fear crossed his face. She didn't find it. It found her. Back below, Alira knelt briefly beside the body of one of the Tarkhan scientists. Not out of pity, but because he was holding something she recognized. The synthetic nerve glove used to control her when she was first imprisoned. She took it, stared at it for a long second, and then crushed it in her mechanical hand. A memory sparked, her former self, vulnerable and terrified, lying on a surgical slab, watching as these beings dissected her biology, trying to figure out how one human could survive so much pain without losing consciousness. They thought pain broke humans, but it was the forge that shaped them. Then the alarms shifted. No longer a general facility breach. A new warning tone howled, low, guttural, shaking the walls with its intensity. She had triggered the Omega Protocol. Deploy the Obsidian Guard, came Drayle's command. If we don't stop her here, she'll burn this planet to glass. The Obsidian Guard weren't standard soldiers. They were Tarkhan legends, cyber-enhanced, towering warriors, immune to fear and programmed for a single purpose: destroy threats too dangerous for armies. But Alira wasn't concerned. She wanted them to come. As the lift doors ahead of her hissed open, a full squad of Obsidian Guards stepped into the dim corridor, plasma halberds raised, armor bristling with shield generators. The lead guard stepped forward. Alira Kane of Earth, you are classified as a bioweapon and sentenced to erasure. She tilted her head, then gave a mock salute with her sword. Nice to see the welcoming committee. Let's skip the trial part. They charged as one. The corridor lit up like the sun had detonated. Sparks, plasma bolts, and shrieking metal filled the air. Alira moved like vengeance incarnate. She ducked the first halberd strike, spun, and her blade sliced through armor like it was smoke. The sword sang, a chorus of rage echoing down the hall. She rolled under a second strike, flipped, and drove her blade through a guard's chest. The energy surge inside his body exploded outward, taking down two more. She was cut across the shoulder, but she didn't slow. Blood mixed with fire. The battle lasted 73 seconds. When it ended, 7 obsidian guards were down. Alira stood, panting lightly, smoke rising from her cloak. One guard tried to crawl away. She knelt beside him. "You cut off my hand," he gasped. "That wasn't me." She looked at him with a calm fury. "Doesn't matter." Then she stood and walked on. Back in the command spire, Drayle was pale with disbelief. "She's heading for the core vault." "That's impossible. That door is sealed at a genetic level, requires triple Tarkon biosignature." But a voice, sharper, older, cut through the chaos behind him. It belonged to High Strategist Olven, a figure so old he wore a respirator shell around his torso. "You still don't understand, do you?" Olven rasped. Drayle turned. "She's a human. She shouldn't even be alive." Olven chuckled bitterly. "She's not just a human. The sword chose her. And the sword only chooses those it deems necessary." "Necessary for what?" "Balance." Drayle backed away. At the core vault, Alira stepped up to the sealed hexagonal gateway. Runes carved by forgotten alien hands glowed faintly, scanning for a triple biosignature sequence. No such genetic data should have matched her, but the sword pulsed, and something within her, something older than the sword, awoke. The scanner blinked green. "Access granted. Welcome, Keeper." Alira's eyes widened for the first time. Then the doors parted with a sound like the universe exhaling. And inside was the truth behind the Tarkon Empire. The storm she brought. The crimson light of Grell Station's alert system bathed the corridors in a warlike hue. Klaxons echoed through the reinforced hull, a cacophony of warnings in every tongue the Galactic Union recognized. But it wasn't pirates. It wasn't mutiny. It was one woman, one human, returning. Sergeant RYLK, commander of the station's perimeter security, stared at the incoming data scrolls. Biosignature confirmed. Human. Designation, Amara Kale. His second-in-command blinked. "The one from the Althean skirmish?" "The same. Supposed to be dead." "Clearly not." A plasma tremor ran through the walls. RYLK turned to the viewport. Out there, framed against the pale light of a dying binary sun, was a small craft. Sleek, silent. It had no identifiers, no energy beacon. But it hovered like a raptor. And then, without warning, it vanished from sensors. "She's inside," RLK growled. "Sound the red protocol." Amara stalked through the metal arteries of the station like a shadow, boots silent on durasteel, her eyes glowing faintly. Not from implants, no, those had been ripped from her body years ago when they dissected her like a specimen. What made her eyes glow now was something else entirely. Vengeance. She moved fast, efficient, calculated. Down one corridor, she dropped a pair of guards with brutal, close-quarter strikes, her blade flashing like silver flame. Not a word, not a breath wasted. Her sword was no ordinary weapon. Forged in the black laboratories of Terra 9, it was psycho-linked to her will, humming faintly in response to her heartbeat. When she had returned from captivity, she hadn't simply trained. She became the weapon. She sliced open a reinforced door with a vertical strike, stepping into the command uplink chamber. Lights flickered. Dozens of data clerks spun from their consoles, shocked at her presence. One tried to scream. She silenced him with a flick of her wrist. "Out," she said to the rest, her voice low and graveled. They didn't hesitate. Every being in the room scrambled for the door, terrified. She moved to the terminal and inserted a crystalline data spike. The screen glitched, then bent to her will. Grell Station's Central AI Interface. Authority override recognized. Terra Origin clearance granted. Operation Judgment initiated. In the command tower, RYLK was watching her every move. She's inside the central core. AI has bent to her voice sprint. That's impossible. Sir, the station's own defenses aren't responding. She's bypassed lockdowns. How? There was silence. Then his second-in-command muttered, "She's not just human anymore." Amara stood in the core, breathing evenly. Her sword retracted into a compact form on her back as she spoke into the console. Playback. Designation Kale. Subject file. Classified experiment R0. The screen displayed footage. Torture. Interrogations. Alien surgeons dissecting her hand. Injecting gene-splicing agents. Laughing in their language, mocking her endurance. They had thought her just another mammal. But humans weren't built. They adapted. And something in their meddling had awoken an ancient part of her. A trait that hadn't existed in any lab or databank. Something terrible. They had created a weapon by accident. No, by arrogance. As the footage faded, the door behind her opened. RYLK stood there, flanked by 6 armed guards. He held a pulse rifle pointed at her chest. "You've made quite the entrance, Kale." She turned slowly. "You carved the monster out of me, Commander. Now you get to meet it." He smirked, unfazed. "This is a secure installation. You'll never make it off this station alive." She tilted her head. "You think I came here to escape?" A wave pulsed through the station. Power grids surged, then rerouted. She had hijacked the station's reactor, converting it into a pulse cannon. The entire station was now one massive weapon. "I didn't come here for revenge," she said. "I came to end the program." His smile faltered. "What program?" She pointed to the ceiling where a hologram formed. Rows upon rows of cryo-chambers, dozens of others like her. Some half-human, some barely recognizable. Experiments, failures, all on this station. All still alive. "You never stopped," she said. "You kept making more of us." RYLK's eyes narrowed. "We were perfecting a new species. You're proof that it worked." "No," she said, stepping closer. "I'm proof that you should have never tried." He raised the rifle. Too slow. In a blink, her sword was in her hand and through his chest. His eyes widened in horror. Then he collapsed to the floor. The guards didn't fight. They simply dropped their weapons and fled. Amara stepped over his body and activated the next sequence. The cryobays cracked open across the station. Hundreds of experimental subjects emerged. Some scarred, others broken, but all awake. Each of them had one thing in common. They remembered her. Amara Kale. The one who never submitted. The one who came back. And as the station echoed with the sound of distant alarms and awakening warriors, she whispered, "It's time we came home."